Welcome back, everyone. Sheepdog Smokey here, and this is another one where I want to ask, why are we getting this from the UK and not from a US source? But it appears now that border officials are testing DNA to find out if the children being brought across the border by adults are really theirs. Right now, the pilot program has revealed that a third of the children are not related to the adults they're with. Now, this does not account for stepfather stepson relationships, according to the report, as well as there are some of the illegal aliens that have denied or turned down the test and admitted they're not related. We've had stories in the past about children being recycled across the border. This is where somebody crosses, this is my child, they get released, kid gets shipped back south to be brought across by someone else. Now, of course, several years ago, we had the infamous picture of a child in a cage crying that was used against the Obama administration to complain about family separation. Of course, that's now being used against Donald Trump, even though it was taken 2 years before the election that he won, and more than 2 years before he was inaugurated president. Now, the report does say that the Trump administration has backpedaled on family separation, and that's not true. What has happened is that the official policies have been changed through the right channels to allow for children to stay with their relatives throughout the process for longer. Officially, under the Clinton administration, Bush administration, and Obama administration, there was a rule that the children could not be housed with adults while they were going through their court proceedings to determine if they were going to be deported or not. Now, this is never reported, pardon me, this is never even talked about because it shows that a Democrat signed the law. And then it was an official ruling by a judge that gave the, I believe, 100 days, and or even shorter. They don't want to talk about that the three presidents prior to Donald Trump enforced the same laws and followed the same policies as Donald Trump is now. They don't want to talk about that because it proves their mantra of Donald Trump is an evil racist is just crap. Enforcing the law is not racist. We've apprehended hundreds of thousands so far that we wouldn't have if the border was secure. They're already reporting that this year alone, scroll down here, we've already had 535,000 apprehended. 40,000 have been released into the U.S. Now, my main question is why we're releasing criminals into American communities when they should just be told, I'm sorry, no, you can't stay just because you say the word asylum. We know that they're being coached to say this because up until now, it's been treated as a magical incantation that automatically voids U.S. border law. We have members of Congress calling for the dissolution of ICE, for the border law to be changed to remove criminalization of breaking the law. It's being played up as if only Donald Trump does this, when in fact that's not true. We have had this problem for decades. Those of you who are in my generation or maybe older will remember that in the 1980s, Congress told then President Ronald Reagan that if the illegal aliens in the country at that time were granted asylum, then a border barrier would be built. Never was. Hasn't been. We have walls in sporadic places, and those places prove that the wall works. Infamously, we have Jim Acosta, who went to McAllen, Texas, and stood in front of a wall and basically said, see, there's a wall and there's no crime, so we don't need the wall that's blocking the crime. Beto O'Rourke, Robert Francis O'Rourke, held a rally in El Paso where there is a border barrier and where he had fences around his rally to decry barriers. The just insanity of it is mind-boggling. Everyone who is screaming that we don't need a wall lives behind a wall and armed guards. The very people who decry every policy and law in place now themselves enjoy it and use it. And there's a simple reason for this. Low-skilled workers, which are the vast majority of those illegally coming into our country, and I would bet 95+%, tend to vote for people who say, we will give you more benefits. So they break our law to get in. Then they break our law to find employment, and so many other things. Of course, the normal argument is that illegal aliens are not committing crimes, but in fact, they are simply by being here. They break the law to get employment because if you're not a legal resident of the U.S., you cannot work in the U.S. They break the law by claiming benefits that are funded by taxpayer dollars. And we know now that many of them do far worse. We've had multiple stories over the last year and a half, 2 years, of rape and murder and assault. And all of that is ignored. The plain and simple truth is we are being invaded by people who will bankrupt this country because the Democrats and the liberals in either party will continue to fight enforcement of our laws. They will continue to call enforcing the law that they refuse to even introduce a bill to change as racist. They will then continue to advocate that benefits paid for by U.S. tax dollars should go to them because they're just trying to make a better life for their family and they need this help. And ultimately, it will end this nation. We are a nation where just a short time ago in world history, but 50 to 75 years ago is not that long ago, people would emigrate legally. They would learn our language and they would assimilate into the American culture. They would then work and provide for their families and a benefit to society. We now have people, legal or illegal immigration used, who refuse to learn our language, refuse to respect our laws. They demand that we learn their language and we observe their culture and we celebrate their traditions, while also demanding that all of our culture and traditions simply be erased because it's racist. It's mind-boggling, honestly it is. We are the only country on the planet that this is happening in because we are a very wealthy nation and a very successful nation. If you look at immigration law across the world, and we'll just use our two neighbors, Canada, in order to emigrate to Canada, not just visit, you must be able to prove that you will be a benefit to society, either by proving that you will be starting a business that will employ people, or proving that you have enough money that you will be investing in the country. For Mexico, it's much worse. If you do not legally enter their country, you will vanish into the black holes known as Mexican jails. There's a now rather well-known case of a U.S. military person who was traveling south in California, got to the border, and begged to be allowed to back up and not enter Mexico. He was denied, not only by Mexican officials, but our own. Our own people refused to say, yes, you may refuse to leave our country. You may stay in the country you're in that you are a citizen of. As soon as he entered Mexico, because he had a firearm in his trunk that he was legally allowed to carry in the U.S., he was arrested, jailed for a long time. And none of the liberals said a word about this because, of course, he's a fascist in their minds. And we don't care that Mexico treats people worse than animals when they illegally enter Mexico. They don't care that Mexico has an official language, Spanish, that Mexico has a voter ID requirement. They don't care about any of this because they don't care about laws. They care about control and power. And the easiest way to subjugate a nation is to overrun it to where the only answer is a police state. And we're not very far from that. Honestly, we spend billions a year on illegal immigrants, enforcing our laws, finding them to drag them to the court case they said they would go to, deporting them, housing them in our jails, and now, unfortunately, fighting legal battles where U.S. states like California tell the government, we're not going to enforce federal law. In fact, we're going to aid and abet illegal aliens in breaking U.S. law. Ultimately, it's going to come down to a simple question. Do those in power care more for American citizens who they are in office officially to represent, Or do they care more about gaining power through subjugation? And it's going to get to a very bad situation before it gets any better. But I've talked about this long enough. Let me know what you think in the comments. Just remember to keep it civil. We don't learn from argument, we learn from debate. Also, as always, please remember to subscribe and turn on notifications and to like and share this video. That way you're, pardon me, I do hate allergy season. That way, not only is the information shared, but you're the first to know of any and all new content as it is posted. As of right now, I'm going to go and grab some Chloraseptic and Allegra and hopefully be able to get back to where I can speak without coughing and sneezing. And I will talk to everyone next time. Have a wonderful day.